Ronin.
Welcome to Juice in the Morning.
Hi.
As you can tell, Hannah Craven is back again.
Hey guys, I missed you.
How's it going, Hannah?
Pretty good. How are you going? How are you going?
I'm doing okay. How am I going? I'm going okay,
Words
I guess.
are hard. I'm still adjusting to being awake right now in the daylight.
Well, thank you for coming back on the show. I appreciate it. I know that you weren't feeling well a couple of episodes ago, and then last week you were just busy, but thank you for joining us again. And then also from Cincinnati and the Pointless Discussions podcast, we've got Paul Shroyer. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing fantastic. How's it going?
Great. You sound great in that microphone, man. I like it.
Well, apparently recently we started a feud with this podcast called Habeas Humor.
Yeah.
And they, I don't know, she on her latest episode, she kind of went after us a little bit.
Uh-oh. Like,
But-
what for?
We kind of critiqued her. You know what a compliment sandwich is? Have you ever heard that before?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we kind of said in her review, she pretty much called us idiots, which I don't disagree with. But she did it wrong. She gave us like 2 actual compliments and then a insult, but it wasn't really like an insult.
But the insult was the one that resonated.
Right.
The most.
So all we said was she did the compliment sandwich wrong, and she kind of took offense to that. And
I call it a compliment milkshake, but it's fine.
And then they'll mix it all together in the milkshake, so then it feels a lot better, I guess, when it's going down, right?
Yeah, it's just unfortunate is what you taste is the bad part. So.
But while she was going after us, she did say that Mark, the co-host on Pointless Discussions with and myself, we have sexy voices. So I'll take whatever she was saying, because after that point, I quit listening. So.
Yeah, you could just end it all after that.
Right.
Speaking of that, we actually got a couple of reviews that were positive. I wanted to take a page out of the Pointless Discussions book and read one of them.
This could be bad. I'm not to interrupt you, but I'm just warning you. This could be bad. No, I'm just kidding.
And maybe a couple of them, but the Monday American is a podcast that, honestly, I apologize, guys. I haven't really gotten a chance to listen to them, but now I'm going to, because they definitely took the time out of their day to listen to our podcast and to give us a review. It says, I'm going to be upfront here. I only listened in because the host and I talked a bit on Twitter. That's a fair point.
Right.
So I figured I'd check it out. I actually really, really enjoyed the episode.
Aww.
I'm subscribed now, just like that. Great vocals, good mix, and above all, great content. I don't dive too deep into the topic of the episode I listen to as far as personal interest, yet I listen to the whole thing like it was one of my hobbies. A+ podcast, guys.
That's so nice.
It's very positive.
That's awesome.
I'm actually
I barely get A+.
I'm actually really interested for my first really negative review. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm getting scared.
I know it's gonna happen, and I'm just
You're gonna be ditch that annoying voice.
I'm very excited for it. But that was once again from the Monday American. If you get a chance, listen to them, subscribe. I'm going to listen to them and subscribe as well. So even though I listen to a million podcasts, they'll at least get my download for support. And then the next one was Juice's grandpa and mom. So this one says, I love the guests that come on the show. Or I love the guests that come on the show. My 2 favorites are Juice's grandpa and mom. Hilarious people. Juice has a way of storytelling that makes you feel like you're sitting in the room with them, laughing along. Love the podcast. Keep it up. 2 positive ones.
Right.
I appreciate it. That was from S. Paget 81, and she's somebody that has been very supportive of the podcast from the very beginning. So I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. And we are on the Facebook Live today, so how are you guys doing?
I don't know if they can see me. I'm all the way over here.
I haven't really checked to see if anything's...
That was what that sound was on my phone. We're all in it, though. I just commented.
Okay. I don't know. I wasn't sure if anybody's actually watching or not, but I'm going to turn it down. So I had mine turned up so people could hear it. But yeah, the Facebook Live thing, I think I stopped for a couple of episodes because I honestly thought that people might be watching it and not downloading the show. Like they're just going to watch the Facebook Live.
Yeah, that's true.
And just watch it there. So if you are watching, make sure you do go download and subscribe as well.
Honestly, though, but we just want everyone to watch it for the most part. You know, if you don't have room on your phone, like
yeah, if you don't have room for like 20 megabits of data, I think you're struggling over there.
Okay, but when you subscribe, they all download and my phone starts freaking out.
Right.
I need a new phone.
My wife's phone, she's constantly having to like delete stuff just to
to have
it's
space.
A whole another storage wars. TLC needs to get on that. Like,
but once again, Hannah's at Crave Hannah on all social media, and Pointless Discussions is with Paul Shroyer and Mark Reynolds. What is your guys' social media handles?
You can find us on Twitter at PD_podcast and on Facebook at Pointless Discussions Podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead and follow them. They've had me on a few times, and it was really awesome, and it was a fun time. So just for one of the most recent episodes I listened to, you guys did an art show. So, you literally did a live podcast from the art show. What was that like? And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it kind of happened on the whim, which is pretty much what our podcast is about. But I had posted something on Facebook like, hey, anybody want to be a guest?
Yeah.
We don't have a guest this week. And my buddy was like, hey, I'm doing an art show. Come out. So he talked to the guy who was throwing the art show, and he said it was cool. We showed up. They even gave us our own table, and it was like we were part of the show.
Did you call people over? Because I know you had you had guests. Did you have any of those planned before, or did you guys just kind of find them?
The only one we had planned was my buddy Brian Beck, who was one of the artists in the show. He was the only one who was planned. And then when we got there, we just started talking to people and met a couple of the other artists and asked them, hey, do you want to come on? And they were like, yeah, that's awesome. And so they just came over. And the guy who was throwing the show, he had a twin brother.
Yeah.
And he just sat down and started talking, and we thought it was the guy who threw the show. So we were just talking with him, and then he was like, nah, it's my twin. And we were just like, whatever.
Mind blown.
Yeah, so that was the only one that just showed up and sat down and started talking.
That's awesome. So that kind of brings me to September 17th. We're trying to put together a live podcast at the Indianapolis Colts tailgate.
So excited for
I think it's going to be good.
I think it's going to be really good.
We're definitely going to be intoxicated. I know that because
we're really good at.
The game is at 1:00, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to plan to get there like around 9.
Yeah,
at least, and get set up. It's going to be. Anybody can join us and have a good time. I have a buddy of mine that works for Pro Football Focus, and he's going to be joining us and talking about his job. We're not sure right now how much he can talk about it, and I probably shouldn't have even said Pro Football Focus, so I might edit that out. But he's going to be on, and we're also going to be talking like tailgate foods, tailgate tips. I'm sure Hannah has quite a few of those from Ball State days.
Survival mostly.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And
I think it'll Jello shots, guys. So come hang out with us.
I think it'll be a good time. And then also we're just going to probably try to do follow the model that you did, where just kind of talk to people and bring people on and see if they want to talk about tailgating.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely set up and have everything set up, and then just kind of mingle. Meet people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You got to pick out the interesting ones, because not everybody needs to be.
Yeah, not everybody needs to be talking on a microphone.
Some editing probably,
right.
but.
So,
That's awesome.
Some people might be a little bit too intoxicated.
We need to get cards made to give them out to people if they talk, and then so we're promoting too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea.
Well, yeah, we were totally, like I said, we planned the day of. Totally unprepared.
Yeah.
I literally drew our logo on a piece of paper and set it down on the table.
That's awesome.
And I'm I'm at an art show. Look at this. Looks like my child drew this and whatever. So definitely try to have something planned ahead of time.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I've got a few just topics, and then I think we're just my plan is just to grab people and chat with them, and then if we like the conversation, we keep it. If we hate it, we'll just delete it and be like, I'm sure they're not going to find it anyways, and not feel offended. So for the next thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is this last week for me was literally like a week from hell. Like I had been up, I literally slept, I think 4 to 8 hours in the last week. And it started with Monday. I worked 10 to 6, which Monday was pretty uneventful. It was just kind of a normal day at work. But then on Tuesday, I had to work at 5 a.m. in the morning. So I couldn't sleep Monday night. Woke up, was at work by 4:30, 4:45, off at 1. Then I had the FC Cincinnati football, the FCC soccer game in Cincinnati. So I got off work at 1. My buddy picked me up and we drove to Cincinnati. I had about 3 to 4 road beers on the way there. And I was already kind of tired and loopy from that. So it was definitely an exciting adventure. But so I had that, and then we went to the game. And so the game, like when you go in, we had general admission tickets. So it was 33,000 plus people there. It was sold out in like the first 5 minutes. It went on sale online. And so we were the whole way there. We're talking about how we're going to get into the Bailey. The Bailey is like the crazy area. Like it's where everybody goes. They have smoke bombs. Like they let them off when people score, and like they have like these big giant signs, and everybody does. Yeah, everybody does like chants, and like it's a crazy fun atmosphere. It's like a concert kind of, and so we're like talking how we're going to get in there. How are we going to get in there? And I just kept telling my buddy, I was like, I'm just going to sneak in. We're going to get in some way or another. We'll just walk in. So we get there, and my first attempt was, I'm just going to walk by the security guard and, act like because you have to have a green wristband. I'm just going to walk by the security guard and not even look at him and just keep walking. Mm-hmm. First thing, he grabs me and says, hey, you have to have a wristband. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I just thought we were going in to sit with our friends. I apologized, and kind of like walked away, but kept my eye on that guy because he was eyeing me the whole time. Right. So we walked a little bit farther down the like line or whatever, and I saw there was an opening about a foot and a half opening between the fence and like the railing of the like that people lean over. And I was like, dude, I bet I could get in right there. And I was like, we just got to wait for our moment. So we're sitting there, and they have this like parade for the game. So all these people come running in at the same time. Right. I was like, this is my chance. This is my moment. And and the security guards are all watching the parade and all this stuff. So I just kind of like sneak my way in. And as I'm going in, my buddy that brought me tried to he just stopped. So first of all, my thought is like, I apologize, Brad, but you should have kept walking because
right, that's on him.
Because I got right in. He said a lady tried to grab my shirt, and I looked back and kind of didn't notice her, but I kind of pulled my arm because I felt like something tugging. I thought I got stuck on the railing, and so I walked, and I just walked down to where his friends were, the people that we went out to the bars with. And I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of all jazzed up, but you can't really move because you're sitting you're literally standing room only. And so I'm just and they're like, keep your hands down. And I'm like, I'm not going to keep my hands down. I was clapping and having a good time because they thought that the security guard would see that I didn't have my wristband. Gotcha. And so I'm just having a good time. But then Brad starts texting me, and he said, that lady is talking to the security guard. And I was like, what lady? And he was like, the lady that tried to grab your shirt. And so I'm texting back and forth with him right now. I'm kind of getting nervous, but I'm also I've been here for about 30 minutes. Nobody's really doing anything.
They're going to pull you out of that one area. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. You just got to take risks.
And so I look back and I see the lady talking to the security guard, and the security guard and I kind of make eye contact. And then he looks back at the lady, looks back at me, and he just starts laughing. So then I was I knew I was good then. And I was like, Brad, you should, I texted him back, you should just sneak in the way I did. And he wouldn't do it. So this is what I think is funny, because all of my best friends listening know that I would have just stayed in there and not gone back out. I would have just left their ass out there because that was their bad. But Brad is a really good friend, but he's not close enough that I feel comfortable just leaving him on his own, because I feel like that's not fair. He's the one who drove me down here. He's the one who got the tickets and did all of this. So I appreciate the trip, Brad. It was a great time, and I appreciate it, but you should have just kept walking, man.
Yeah, it's like turning on, if you're going to turn left on traffic, you're either going to do it
you can't pause.
If you hesitate, you're going to get hit. I mean, right.
So,
but you don't want to ditch your ride. 'Cause
Yeah.
then you're stuck.
and also, like, you know, I said it would have been a dick move for me to stay in there with his friends and him be hanging out in the general admission area. But we ended up watching the rest of the game. Blast, super fun. Cincinnati lost to the New York Red Bulls.
Damn shame.
It was from Brad's own words, a typical Cincinnati sports moment because he's been a fan his whole life,
Right.
and he's like, this is one of the biggest games that we've ever been a part of. And obviously, in typical Cincinnati fashion, they led the match for 75 minutes. They were up 2-0 until the 75 minutes, and then lost in the last 15 minutes of the match. So it was definitely exciting, but it was fun. So I wanted to ask you guys: have you guys ever snuck into anything?
Oh yeah.
And I would like to possibly hear a story of you sneaking in somewhere.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Anybody can take
you
first.
Seem like you've got
Oh,
a
yeah,
She's ready.
It's
On deck.
One of my favorite things to do is sneak in somewhere because, you know, I don't even know how people get on lists for some things, but if there's lists, I'm not always on it, but I'll find a way to get in. Like, I become like a pro at it. Anything at the rooftop downtown.
Yeah.
Claiming I'm on a list or just like walking in, same thing. The biggest thing is confidence. Act like you are meant to be there and that they were a problem trying to ask you what you're doing. Like, I am on the list. I've already been in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go. Thank you. And
So
like,
how does that usually work when you?
Really well. Really well. Depending on how high profile the event is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So do you like act like you're somebody? Do you do a
No,
persona?
I just act like I'm on the list. Like,
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
like, I've already been in. Like, I'm with that group of people, and they're like, okay. Like,
I think
sometimes
girls
it doesn't work,
do
but-
girls get in easier than guys? You think?
Yeah, because half the time if they're like they're trying to push out like a young 20-year-old girl or whatever,
Yeah.
they're just like, okay, maybe we should just let this happen because what's the worst thing that can happen?
Right.
Yeah,
'Cause if
absolutely.
They see girls in the establishment, then more guys are going to want to come in
Oh
because
yeah,
there's girls. and-
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty successful for the most
So
part.
what's the probably the one that would be the hardest to get into that you snuck into?
I would say downtown, the VIP event for New Year's Eve, usually at Martini's. I somehow always get into that.
That's so awesome.
Whether I know
and
or,
I think
like,
it's like $100 a ticket to get into that, isn't it?
It's over $100 for like general admission.
Yeah.
And then it's like you have to buy out the VIP, which is a couple $1,000s.
Oh my gosh,
or something. So yeah, I'm always sneaking into that.
that's awesome. How about you?
Believe it or not, I have never snuck into anywhere.
Not
Really?
Because I get I would have been your buddy that would have hesitated, and then it would have been over for me. I always found it was easier to like you said, to get on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So I would either date a girl who worked at a bar that I
Yep.
like to go to, so I could just go in. And I'm not saying I just dated her because
It was just a
she
nice
worked at the
bonus.
right. It was a perk to the relationship, or like I just knowing people just
Yeah.
so he's working there. Hey, I'm trying to go to this place. Can you get me in? But yeah, I've always been too much of a wuss to ever sneak into a place.
It's such a thrill though. Once you do it once, you're just like,
I
I'm
need
gonna
to
do
do
it
it
all the
more.
time.
Oh, it's definitely a thrill. Like I
Yeah.
mean,
well, okay, I take that back. Maybe a movie theater.
Yeah, I was about to
That's
say, you
like
gotta-
some like white boy crime or something. Like I snuck into this movie. I'm
Saw
such
it
a-
rated R and I
right.
was 11.
I'm such a gangster.
I paid for one movie and then went to another
Right,
one.
yeah.
So
I lived at the movie theater for that day.
But that's where it stops. for
yeah.
me.
I think that like what you're talking about with the rush, I mean, it is like a very big rush. And like the whole time I had snuck in that just recently, I was literally thinking the whole time, like, I'm going to get caught. I'm going to get thrown out. And
But
then I'm
once
like,
you're in, you're good. Like you're always good. Like
and so basically back to the week from hell. So then we got the match didn't end until like 11 or
It
10:30,
goes
11 o'clock. And then we drove home. I had to work the next day at 7 in the morning. So I usually get up about 5:30 so that I can get to work early and get a shower and everything. And like I said, I got up, I went to work, and but I was super tired because I slept probably 3 or 4 hours. And then the very next day, or no, I got home from that day, and Blue, my beautiful pit bull, who's kind of an asshole, decided to drink and eat too much food and water and was laying
my dog did that yesterday.
laying across me, like, and we were just watching Netflix, he and I broing out because that's what we do. And he just is sitting there and I hear him go, "Whoop," and I was like, "Don't you do it." And as soon as I said, "Don't you do it," he just like threw up all over me and all over my pants and my bed. And so I was like, fuck. So I got up and I took everything off the bed because I was trying to go to sleep. Like I had to work at 5 a.m. the next day. Took all my stuff, threw it all in the washer. Well, I don't know if you guys do a lot of washing of beds and like blankets and like things like that, because when you put too much in there, the washer gets off balance and won't drain. So then you've got these like soaking wet sheets and blankets sitting in there. You have nothing to do except for what I did, which was pull them all out of the washer and throw them on the ground and then try to dry one thing at a time.
Jan was probably about to kill you.
Well, she was about to kill me, and then she got home, and I was just like, honestly, I should apologize to her because I was kind of a dick. Like I was like, I gotta be at work at 5 a.m, and I'm sitting here trying to dry this stuff. Blue puked on me. Like, can you? And she was at the free concert at the state fair, so like she gets.
I saw that. All American Rejects.
Yeah, so she gets home and she's like, oh, okay, I'll take care of it. So she, being the most awesome lady that she is, she handled all of the sheets and the blankets that I had just thrown sopping wet into the laundry room because I was so pissed that I couldn't get anything cleaned. But yeah, that was, so then I woke up the next day for that. And then I just couldn't sleep after that. I stayed up for a long time. But it literally last week felt like 2 weeks in 1 week. So it was really weird.
Story of my life. I feel like it always is like that.
It's really weird.
I always sleep 4 or 5 hours, and then one day I just crash for an entire day. Like I don't wake up. Like I have someone check my pulse every once in a while.
They use a mirror underneath your nose to make sure you're still breathing.
Okay, cool.
I have something that might help you out, Justin.
Okay.
You need to Google the definition of Netflix and chill, because I think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, right. Start doing more of that. The thing about it is, like, I had the same
Blue and I
kind of
don't do the chill part. We just do the Netflix.
I had a weekend like that last week. Well, actually, a week. I was staying with my friend while her husband was in Reno for work. He's going to be there for like a month, and I was drained. It was like college all over again in 1 week. Like, we were like partying, drinking, like doing whatever we wanted, doing face masks, but still drinking somehow, like while we were doing them. Like
doing girl stuff.
Doing girl stuff, but still hammered the whole time. And I finally was just like, girl, I got to go home. Like, I got to rejoin like the rest of the world. I got to go.
You guys are in like a different world, like a different land.
It really was. I feel like I stepped out of like the Twilight Zone.
You weren't in reality for a little while.
I wasn't. It was like mimosas and chill, but no chill happened.
And the summer's kind of coming to an end. Like
it's
sad. I know it's sad,
so
but
sad. Like I cry.
To be honest, I look back on it and I think that it was literally one of the Chad Justice just said "sup bitches" on our live.
You call him bitch, Chad Justice.
What's up, Chad? But no, the summer's coming to end, but it's been a great summer. Like I got to be on your guys' podcast. I got to be on the Smugcast. Really, the podcast has grown. Like I looked at one of the memories on my Facebook from last year, and at this time last year, I had 1,000 downloads on the podcast, and it's crazy to see. Once I started doing this and taking it a little bit more seriously, how much more it grew. Like, and I was kind of curious with you guys, like how have you guys seen things develop from the beginning?
Well, I mean, we've definitely gotten a lot more of a responsive following. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, you know, it was real hard getting the listens, and then we started noticing that we were getting regular listens. So every week it was the same amount of downloads, and that's been growing. The summertime's been hard because I feel like, you know, a lot of people are doing a lot more stuff and they're not really listening to podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the winter, like when we started in the winter, like right before the winter, and it was awesome. And then we freaked out once summertime, like summertime hit.
Yeah.
We started freaking out because our numbers dropped drastically.
Dive bobbing. That's what happened with us,
But
too.
I've been noticing lately they're starting to pick
Go back up.
I think with like kids going to school.
Yeah.
So
it's an absolute real thing, though, for real. I'm excited for winter. I think winter is when we start implementing like some promotion, like on Facebook and things. Like that's the one thing about winter I'm excited for in the fall. It's just
and I want to keep trying to do like events because I have a buddy that works for Guitar Center, and I didn't realize that you can rent stuff. So like the mobile recording stuff, we can rent it, and it's not that expensive.
That's a good idea because then you don't have to worry about your own stuff getting destroyed.
Because I can't take this to the tailgate fields. Like I'm gonna rent a Zoom, it's like an H6, and like microphones will plug into it. I'll probably take that one because that's a pretty durable microphone. Right. It's a little dynamic, older one, but you know, I think that the summer coming to an end, guys. take your time to download and subscribe and review the podcast,
Let us
because
be your new thing.
because that's your thing that you can do, and you can start being one of those guys that all you do is talk about the podcast. Because a lot of the times in everyday conversation, like I'll be talking about your show, or I'll be talking about the Adam Carolla show, or I'll be talking about something I talked about on my own show, and it's definitely fun, and it's a community. So the next topic that I had thought of that I thought was funny, but I never really got to explore it because one of the episodes I had planned, it just didn't work out the same way that I had planned it. And this is a Twitter poll that I did just, I think, 2 or 3 weeks back, but it was the first time drinking. So I put three levels, 17 or under, which the Twitter poll got 165 votes.
Wow.
So 17 or under got 73% of the vote. So they're kind of a lot of drinkers under there.
Yeah, I guess I was about 15, 16.
Yeah. 18 to 21 got 21%, and then 21 plus got 6%. So the 21 plus, I was surprised that, I mean, I know it's 6%, which isn't that much, but still, that's a few people. I don't know math, but
I mean, this survey would hold up on Family Feud. I'm just saying, you got over 100 votes, so I mean,
I mean, the math works out.
Right.
I want to know how you guys, your first time drinking, if you remember the details of it. So,
all right. Well, we thought, if you're gonna drink, you might as well get the good strongest stuff. So we decided to get some Everclear. No. I'm sorry. Bacardi 151.
Oh my God.
Plan's funeral.
Yeah, it was 151. And we were taking shots of it.
You were wanting to die.
Oh, it was the worst. I remember our one buddy didn't drink that night, and he was the one who was driving all of us. All I remember is laying down in the back seat of the car and opening the car door while he's driving and throwing up out of the
yuck.
Yeah, and then
So I've got something. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
you're fine.
So that reminds me of one of the first times that I had one of my buddies drink with us, and he got blacked out. And instead of opening the door, which was a polite thing that you did, he rolled the window down and puked out the car. So it went all down my buddy's car.
Right.
So my buddy, being a badass, stops in the middle of the road and makes him get out and use his own shirt to clean the car off. Yeah. It was so perfect.
Get out.
That's what you get for puking. I have puked all over my buddy's car before, and I paid for him to. And
you didn't get blacklisted?
No, well, my ratings suck.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a 1 star on that one.
No, the guy was so nice, but I didn't. It was I whipped the door open I was he gave me a mint. That was his mistake. It was broad daylight.
That was his mistake.
Yeah, it was broad daylight.
He was trying to be nice and give you
and I'm
a mint.
Yeah, sure. I'm maybe it'll help because I don't even see. I whipped the door open. And it's just on the running blade thing of the car. He's driving a brand new Acura.
Yeah.
And I'm just I am so sorry. I tipped him $50. He drove me 2 miles. I'm and he was it's okay. He was so nice. He was the nicest grandpa ever. I'm if you could adopt a grandpa, I would adopt him.
At least you tipped them enough money to
get it
clean.
Well, they can charge you $150. It was not anywhere on the inside of the car, just a little bit on the running board. Yeah.
So go ahead. You puked out the car.
I mean, that was pretty much it. I don't remember too much. I just remember the next day I woke up, I was still wasted. And
I've had plenty of those times.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and like I said, I've talked about it on the podcast before, if I wake up still wasted, I'll probably have 2 or 3 more beers in that morning.
It's going to be a fun day. If I can continue chasing that drunk.
When you're 16 years old, though, you don't.
You can't, and you probably don't have a lot of reserves when you're 16.
We had to, we knew somebody who worked somewhere that could go in and get it for us.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he would have did that at 10:30, 11 in the morning.
Absolutely not.
My first time, we raided my parents' bar in the basement, and of course they hid all the good stuff that kids would probably try and drink. So we found a bottle of Seagram,
which is funny. Let me interrupt you. When I was a kid, I did not assume that I was going to drink the good stuff. I was I'm going to drink the cheapest stuff because then they're not going to notice.
Oh, we were assholes. We had no rules. So we're raiding their bar, looking at. So all we could find is a case of Seagrams, bottles. So we're like, all right, now where are the shot glasses? Also were hidden somewhere. So we're shooting shots out of my little sister's tea set. Like these little Peter Rabbit, like and they just ripping
It's
shots.
probably
out
perfect.
Yeah.
It's probably an ounce.
Honestly, I think it was about half a shot off. So anytime anyone has a tea set, I get war flashbacks, like PTSD. I'm like, I cannot.
What's really funny about that is, and I'll let you continue. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but I keep thinking of stuff. We actually drank at a friend's house that parents were out of town, and we were there to like literally just house sit.
Yeah.
And this was actually when we were adults and we were over 21, and we're looking around because we have some Fireball, and we're like, let's take some shots of Fireball, and literally the only thing we could see, like in our peripheral view, was these there's kids sippy cups. So we're like we're just gonna use those.
Wow.
And one of the friends took a picture and posted it on Facebook, which is in turn friends with the person's house, like the parents that own the house.
Are they shitty?
They were just like, why the hell are you guys using sippy cups to take shots? Like, get the hell out of here.
We got shot glasses in the
Just
kitchen.
a little update. I still cannot find my parents' shot glasses. So,
What are they doing? Like,
I don't know. I don't know. It's like I go
It's like
home
national
and I'm like,
treasure.
all right,
They're-
where's our tea set then? Like, surely you guys save that for our
So
kids.
you guys are ripping shots out of the tea set.
Yeah, we're all just like puking off the pool deck. Like my parents are
Right.
thinking we're having an innocent girl sleepover. Like my mom like leans over the balcony. It's like, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, night swimming.
I feel like that's how everybody's first time really drinking ends up.
And
Is
you just think
everybody
you're-
just puking.
Oh,
Yeah.
see,
Oh, yeah.
well, that's what's funny is like I was never a puker. So like I don't think I puked from drinking until I was in college, but I did drink a lot while we were in high school. My first time drinking is just like, and I've told people this, I don't know if I told them on the podcast, but every time I've done like a substance that I wasn't supposed to do, whether it be weed or any kind of other drugs or alcohol, the person that I was doing it with asked, like, have you done this before? And every time, absolutely.
Me too.
I've done that. I've drank,
the
like,
exact same way.
I've drank a lot. I've smoked
Have you
weed
ever had this
before.
before? Yep.
And
Yep.
so-
For breakfast. Let's go.
So the older guys, when I was drinking for the first time, called my bluff, and they filled a shot glass that was probably like, I don't know, 6 to 7 inches tall. And it was called the Rocket. And at the bottom, it was like engine starting. And then at the very top, it was like to the moon. So they filled it up to the like to the moon line,
Right.
and was like, well, then drink that. And it was vodka. So I was
You
like,
get that at like Spencer's or something?
yeah. And so, it's probably like 5 or 6 shots in that one glass. And I just chug it down, and they're like, wow, that was awesome. Like, you doing okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling fine. And so I'm hanging out at this party, like chilling because this girl's parents are out of town, obviously.
Right.
And so, a few minutes later, they call me back in, and they're like, oh, dude, these people just got here and they can't believe that you did that. Do it again. And I was like,
Do it for YouTube.
I was like, yes,
for the
okay.
vine.
I was like, I felt cool because everybody was like wanting to see this, like, center of attention thing. Obviously, I'm pretty narcissistic by doing a
Let's go.
podcast and everything like that. But so they pour another one and I drink it down. And that time they had at least half mixed it with Coca-Cola. So like it was like, 4 or 5 shots, not 6 or 7. And so then I sit down and I'm in this chair, and the girl that her parents own the house is kind of sitting in the chair with me, and we're just kind of like hanging out, laughing, being stupid. But then that's when it's out, goes out. I blacked out. Like I don't remember anything after that for probably 4 or 5 hours. But the rest of this story was related to me. So what happens was her parents decided to come home because they were like, this seems weird. She was like, not answering the phone, being weird on the phone and that kind of thing. Because back in the day, not everybody had cell phones.
Right.
And so
I remember a pager. You ever had a pager?
I did not have my
A what?
Pager. Right. I'm pretty old, so
my uncle had one, and I always thought it was really cool that he had one.
Holstered on his pants.
Exactly.
What message is coming in that fast that you need to have it
I mean,
holstered like
we used to send like boobies to
Yep.
each other and stupid stuff like that.
all
But
pixelated and everything.
Right.
But so her parents come home, and that's when they yelled at me because I was kind of sitting in the chair with that girl, and I jumped up, and this I do vaguely remember, as I jumped up because I had that like adrenaline rush, and then literally had no control of my body, and I just fell forward onto my face into a pile of pretzels. I remember the feeling, like it was very intense, like that. I can remember that memory of like them just like digging in like the salt and stuff like, and then so. Once again, I was out again. I don't remember this, but apparently all of my friends picked me up and like carried me to the back of their house because they had a ranch style house. So the garage was over here. Her room was at the very back of the house. So like they carry me in, and we're trying to they're trying to figure out how they're going to get out so they don't get in trouble.
Right.
And so they all jump out the window, and it's in the middle of winter. So they all jump out the window, and they're like trying to figure out how to get me out. And they literally like toss me out the window, and like I fall face first into the snow.
Are you kidding?
I remember this too because of, once again, I remember the salt on my face, and I remember the cold snow on my face when I get tossed out of the window.
It probably helped, honestly.
Exactly. And so they, carried me into the car. I was like laying across all of the people.
Reckless, but good.
Yeah, I was laying across all the people's laps like a girl, like back in the day, like when we would try to like get 17 people to a party.
Some people never change.
And I was just laying across everybody, and they all actually went to the basketball game, which we were planning on going to, because we used to always like party and then go to girls' basketball games, and everybody would know that we were messed up, but we always thought that it was like a secret to us. And so they all go in and just left me in the car, but one friend stayed behind and made sure I was okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just they sat in the front seat, smoked cigarettes, and just, you doing okay, Justin?
Still friends today?
Yeah. You
Really?
doing okay, Juice? Yeah.
Aw.
Like, and they said I was just like flipping around, like couldn't even like make words or anything. And the next day I had a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. So I woke up, and that's the fucked up thing is when you are 14, 15, 16 years old, like a hangover didn't exist to me.
No.
Like I woke up and I was like, woo, let's go do this 3-on-3 basketball tournament. And like, I was like, perfect. And we got to the tournament. I played a game and I like felt fine, but like I was kind of like a little hot. And I stepped off the court, and my basketball coach walks up to me and he's like, Justin, you look green. Are you okay? And I was like, yes, I'm fine. And so after that, I knew that there was repercussions. I needed to actually check myself in the mirror after drinking because maybe I look like shit and everybody knows that I was drinking. But that was my first time drinking. So I thought it was a very good story to share after doing the Twitter poll for all of our Facebook or our Twitter friends from the Potter family, because most of those people are the ones who responded to it.
Yeah.
So how has the Potter family treated you so far?
I mean, I love them.
We met through there.
Yeah, that's how we met. I mean, that's how I came across the Habeas Humor podcast. I mean, I've met so many other podcasts and good people. I mean, if you ever need a suggestion for a podcast, just search hashtag Potter and Family.
Yeah.
And so many good podcasts are going to pop up that you can just pick one and go to town.
And it's interesting because I'm trying to figure out with Hannah like how to make us a little bit more visible, I think, to just even people in Indianapolis, because what I want to do is grow this thing locally to where we are like, people enjoy listening to it, and it's people that we can talk to. Right. And she's gotten a lot of good feedback that I've used for the show from friends that listen, and I really appreciate it because some of the stuff that I think's cool may not actually be good, and people may not actually enjoy it, or there's something that they do enjoy that I thought was dumb and that I didn't even think about when we did it. The one thing that I was curious about is how have people responded, because you guys do kind of just like talk about random stuff. Like how does that work with the people that listen? Do they really enjoy it, or is it something that kind of gets in the way sometimes?
I don't know, because getting people to leave a review about something is almost pulling teeth.
And not to be a dick, but Apple Podcasts does not make it fucking easy to leave a review.
They suck.
It's terrible.
You have to go through like 3 steps just to do it.
They haven't posted. Mine never posted, did it?
No,
I gave us
I
a
don't
review.
think so.
Never posted.
Yeah,
Submitted 3 times.
It might have actually. We have 23, which is pretty good actually.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah.
And
that's all thanks to Hannah, by the way. Thank you.
No, 50-50.
So I mean, honestly, like I said, we have a set number of listeners that listen every
regularly.
week.
How do you test, or how do you know that? How do you?
Well, we post on SoundCloud,
Okay.
so we get a lot of analytical stuff through SoundCloud, and we can see like who's listening. Well, it doesn't like specifically say who, but like
an
which
area.
episode's getting listened to that week, like how many listens for the whole week, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of we can look and see, and it shows us the total number of listens per episode. And I mean, they've been consistent, and like I said, they've been getting bigger. So I just look at that like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
Well, what's crazy to me is when I look at our analytics, is like it's wildly inconsistent. Like some some episodes will have like thousands of downloads, and then some will have 200 or 100.
And I think it comes down to quite a few things that are like factors that you can correlate with that. I mean, our level of promotion, what we talk about, what we say this one's covering, how many people we like. Some weeks we push it way harder than others.
Yeah.
I mean, just
the last couple of
things.
weeks I've been doing as much as I can of getting it out, and I actually, I'm starting to learn the technology a little bit. Hannah has called me grandpa before,
You've
and
come
I
a
am,
long way, Grandpa.
and I'm learning to schedule published tweets and like published Facebook posts so that I don't have to get on my phone.
Yeah,
like it'll just automatically like post
I'll
it.
always retweet it, unretweet it, retweet it again like a few hours later. Like that's what I just keep doing the same thing.
Nice.
And I think though that once we are in the winter and people do have slowed down with like all the summer activities and things like that, we'll start to get actual information and stats that we can like understand better. Like I think we will. I hope we can. But
what do you see for the future of your show? Like what do you guys want to do? Or what do you want to who do you want to have on?
Well, I know. Let's see. This is coming out on.
That's a 2-part question.
Right, right. Yes, and
loaded question.
So this comes out on Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, so this Friday we are interviewing, and I should fucking know the name, but if you listen to my podcast, I am terrible. So I'm going to stall a little bit while I pull up the name of this comedian, but he's from Atlanta.
Oh, I love that. Our favorite interviews are the comedian ones.
Yeah.
I absolutely love those.
Speaking of that, while he's looking that up, I did talk.
Thank you.
I met with somebody. I met with somebody on Facebook that I had actually sent him a message like months ago.
Yeah.
And he finally responded, and he's actually a booker for Indianapolis, like comedians,
Shut up.
professional wrestlers, like just people that are local here in Indiana. Which I know that doesn't mean that you're going to get somebody on here that has 5 million, Facebook fans and stuff like that. But it's people doing the stuff that I like to be interested in. And he said he can get them on whenever they want. And so September 3rd is going to be a gentleman from from Indiana. His name is Rick Garrett, and I think we're going to get him on here really soon.
Yeah.
And he's actually going to be in the studio. That's what I'm excited about, is we're going to actually have people in the studio.
Face to face is so much better.
It sounds better. I mean,
it's exciting. You just carry the energy there.
Right.
And I've heard a lot of people say from feedback that the phone calls are a little bit harder just because it doesn't. And I think that it comes from the fact that I'm good with talking to people in person and like reading body language. When you're listening and just kind of like talking on the phone, the conversation isn't the same.
No,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not.
That's universal though. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
inside sales.
So who's the person that you're going to be interviewing?
All right, I had to go to our tech guy, Josh. He keeps me informed on this stuff, but it's Spike Davis.
Yeah.
He's a comedian from Atlanta. He's going to be in Cincinnati on Friday doing a show.
Nice.
And we're going to head out and do another Facebook Live, and after the show, we're going to have him on the podcast.
Awesome.
And talk to him, so.
That's awesome. And it's great to like, comedians are awesome because even if you're not that good of like, and I'm not saying that you guys aren't good, I'm talking more about myself. If you're not a very good interviewer, they're still usually pretty funny because they're
we're
like
terrible. Like we don't. Our problem is like we don't. Everything's on the fly. We don't write anything down.
That's good though. It's so raw. I feel like that's awesome.
Well, yeah, we
Should be
want
like
more
that.
of like a natural conversation.
Yeah.
And so we're asking these questions. Like the people who come on our podcast are like, so do you have like a list of questions that you're going to be asking me? I'm like, no.
The good thing though about that is not having like, I prepare like an outline of like bullet points of like what I want to talk about, so
that's good,
so that I like don't, because there will be times that I just like don't know where to go, and I just like kind of sit there, and I don't like editing, so I don't want to go back and like take out that silence, but I was trying to figure out where I was going with that.
You just know what you want to cover and where you want to go with things and the
But
relevancy of it.
I figured out thank you, Hannah. That's one of
why
the
I'm here, guys.
one of the
Look
big
out.
reasons you're here. But I think it's great to not have you can't ever send the questions to an interview, because then you're just going to have canned answers that they've thought about.
Yeah,
And
exactly. You want it to be natural.
And I think that's a good positive for you guys when you do talk to people that you're interviewing, you're talking to them, and you're just asking them honest, curious questions. And that's when some of my best podcasts have been, is when I'm just really curious about the subject. Like, for example, I'm recording 2 podcasts today. The next one I'm doing is guys that modify Nerf guns to like be more aggressive
My
or like
team at work, the
dangerous.
Cash Hounds, are gonna love that.
I love that they're
all
called
gonna
the Cash
listen.
Hounds,
We're
too.
Oh yeah, because we kill it.
So you guys are going to be interviewing him. Is there what is the moment that you guys think you'll have made it? Is it when you're doing it, or are you planning on getting to a point where you're doing it like as a job, or is it just kind of more of a hobby?
I mean, if we could get it to where this is our job, that would be amazing, because we've got so many ideas for like videos, songs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I are actually working kind of on a little short film.
I did talk to my buddy Joe about that as well, and he and I are going to get together and do a FaceTime and talk about it.
Right. We really need to tweak some stuff on the whole premise, but I think we have something good that we could work with.
I definitely think it's a good idea.
And so I would love to do it full time so we could, produce content like that. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like Mark just had a baby. That's what he was supposed to be here with me.
Yep.
He himself actually had a baby. It was crazy.
That is pretty weird. Yeah, that's hard.
It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
How do you do that?
But so he's taken like a good month or 2 off of the podcast.
Yeah.
So luckily I still have my brother to help, with interviews and stuff, and if I don't know what to talk about. So that's kind of putting us back a couple months, because
It'll be okay though, as long as you can keep going. There will be times that Hannah's not on. It's just the way it works with scheduling
Getting
and
better.
whatnot.
I mean, and when he finds out that I'm holding tryouts for a new co-host, he might be mad. I don't know, because I know he's going to be listening to this.
When Juice finds out I'm applying, he'll be even more mad.
Right.
Oh, you fucker.
Right, just kidding.
But I think we're getting right about to the time. So once again, just share your social media and how they find you on podcast apps.
I mean, any podcast listening app you have, we're on it, I'm sure. And
it's very easy. I found you guys really easy.
Right. If you search Pointless Discussions, we're about the first thing that pops up. So you find us on Twitter at PD_podcast, Facebook, Pointless Discussions Podcast, and leave us a review on iTunes.
Definitely leave them a review,
Yes,
because
come
they're
on.
hilarious.
I promise we're not trying to start a feud with you. I don't.
But they are fun, so bring
But
it.
if they do start a feud, it'll be entertaining for you guys to watch and listen to. I think that another thing to add to theirs is, if you're interested in the podcast that I did with my cousin about D&D, which is like one of the biggest downloaded podcasts, they do like an improv kind of like D&D thing called Hospitals and Doctors. So definitely check out their episodes for that, because it's very hilarious. You feel like you're right in it. And I also want to say thank you to the guys from Smugcast for answering all of my questions. You guys are always there. Aaron and BJ are always there to give me feedback. And basically, when I start getting self-conscious about this and hearing people talk about it, they tell me, fuck everybody else. This is your thing. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you listen to some of our episodes, I mean, we got one that's called episodes called "I Am Your Huckleberry," where we invade some dude's house, and it's like a mini movie on the podcast.
It's
and
good.
it's probably our least listened to episode, but I don't care, because I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And we've got another one of those coming out here soon. So.
Yeah.
And people might not listen to it, and I don't really give a shit. You just gotta do what
you want to do.
do what you do.
And I like the advice that the Smugcast gave us as well, is just like be yourself and bring it across in the show, because it's basically the show is like yourself but times 10. So just be yourself times 10. So once again, thanks guys from the Smugcast. We'll keep working on stuff. We're trying to plan stuff all the time.
Like getting Mark and I on your podcast.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we need to get them your information. I'll definitely let them know because they're in Greenwood, so they're just a little bit farther than us.
Yeah, a little more south.
We'll drive wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have a life, so
Me either.
It would be a good time. Ripple Ride is a pedal pub party bike in Broad Ripple.
Ripple Ride.
And we need to schedule one of those.
yeah, we do.
And even if we don't record for it, I don't care.
Oh, we're gonna record for it because we're gonna be getting white girl wasted.
Yeah,
you know
with
what
the
I'm
Zoom
saying?
H6 that I talked about renting, you can get, I think, 6 microphones on it. So
That's I've seen the pictures you've been sharing. And
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of fun.
but
It's the most lax like beer bike thing you can do.
Yeah,
You're like,
and-
all right, whatever.
and it's owned by a good friend of mine, Austin Dickey. Google that shit and be sure to use the promo code JUICE because we do still have an agreement. I just don't think anybody's signed up for it yet. So you will get 10% off of your entire order. So
Yep.
do that as soon as you guys get a chance. And then once again, this podcast was brought to you by Never Too Hungover, and now we have a promo code.
A promo code.
So, Never Too Hungover has agreed to give our listeners 20% off their Amazon or the Never Too Hungover website. This show and all episodes are brought to you by Never Too Hungover. Never Too Hungover is a healthy vitamin blend that helps neutralize toxins, restore vital nutrients, and rehydrate the body. It is the best tasting and most effective way to help prevent or recover from hangovers. I know that you know how to deal with that, Hannah.
We get those a lot up in here.
Your homemade remedy. This is actually better than that, I promise. It's not just pickle juice, Gatorade, and sleeping for 10 hours.
No longer shotgunning Pedialyte in parking lots.
Exactly. Yeah, fuck
Out of
Pedialyte.
teacups.
Teacups.
And there are 2 types: prevention, which you drink before or during your wild night out on the town. If you had too many Vegas bombs and are still struggling the next day, the Boost will help set you straight. I personally have used...
Hold on. What the hell is a Vegas bomb?
You've never had a Vegas
I
bomb?
Never
have
had a
never
Vegas
had a
bomb?
Vegas
Who
bomb.
are you?
I'm sorry.
It's-
I'm the guy who's too chicken to sneak into a
All right,
place.
Vegas bomb. It's
Crown
Crown
Royal,
Royal, peach
Schnapps.
Red Bull,
Bull.
and then sometimes the splash of cranberry. Some
See,
some
I don't
states
like
do,
the
some
splash.
states don't. I do.
You
I
had
don't
me
like
at
anything.
Red Bull.
I don't like the
I'm
splash
out.
of cranberry.
I can't drink Red Bull either, so I'm like, put Sprite
But
in
it
that.
reminds me of college days and puke. All right,
I
back
literally
to
can't.
back
I'll
to
have a
the ad.
heart
I'm
attack.
done.
It's okay. I do know that the Boost works for me personally. Like, I've used it. I've drank that after a night of drinking, and I'm ready to go the next day. There's no problems, and it's perfect for before the podcast because there is a little bit of caffeine in it. Gets me a little pumped up. So once again, thanks for the samples. Never Too Hungover. The promo code is actually Juice Box because it needed to be 8.
That's awesome.
That's
8
awesome. I
letters.
love that.
So we're recording in the Juice Box. Use the promo code on Amazon.com or nevertoohungover.com. Once again, the promo code is Juice Box. For Crave Hannah, Paul Shroyer, and myself, have a fantastic day, evening, or night because it depends on when you listen to this.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Juice in the morning.